Okay, it's day number 7. And if you didn't know, for most of the day yesterday, Jennifer McCabe was testifying for about, I'd say over half of the day, I believe, watching the whole entire thing. I watched the entire trial. I've watched every interview, every documentary that Karen Read herself has done. But today is day number 7, and it has been all about her. She's still on the stand right now as we speak. Don't know if it's going to carry over till tomorrow, day number 8. But if you didn't know, Karen Read's attorneys that represented her during her first trial are also representing her during her second trial. I'm assuming this is why she needed all those hundreds of thousands of dollars to do the ABC, the 2020, the ID documentary, all those interviews that she did, because she clearly has to pay not only for experts, certain experts, but she also has to pay these very expensive attorneys. And if you didn't know, that is Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, whose law firm it is. He's a partner or the head of the law firm. And then there's Robert Alessi and Elizabeth Little. Mr. Alan Jackson is doing the cross-examination of Jennifer McCabe. And you know what is absolutely astounding is that he's trying his hardest to nitpick. He has been told multiple times to stop being argumentative. He has been told multiple times that he cannot make comments. After he asks her a question, he makes a comment. That is going to stick in the jury's mind because he's trying to paint the most credible witness who was there at not only the bar, the waterfall, for 2 hours. It was her sister and brother-in-law's house, 34, and then was there with Karen Read the next morning when she found John O'Keefe's body where she left it just a few hours prior. She's a very strong and credible witness. But you got to remember that this happened 3 years ago, over 3 years ago, January 28th to January 29th, 2022. I think they know, especially Mr. Alan Jackson, who's doing the cross-examination of her still right now. I think they know that things are completely different with this retrial because now they have Karen Read's own testimony and her own words in all of those public interviews and documentaries that she's done. But my whole thing is, if I was on the jury and I heard an attorney, yeah, they can get kind of character assassination type, when they're cross-examining some of the best, most credible witnesses. But the way that he is nitpicking and constantly being told by the judge to stop making comments, to stop being argumentative, that she already answered your question. Stop trying to paint it as something. The fact that he's doing that so much to her all day today just tells me that they're reaching. They're really, really, really trying to prove reasonable doubt, not by actually giving us a plausible theory, but by tearing down witnesses. And this witness, along with many others, have already been harassed into oblivion. Their children have been followed to their sporting events, games, lacrosse games. They have had a content creator, and I'm surprised that the judge even allowed it. I wouldn't be surprised right now if there isn't restraining orders, private restraining orders between some of these people and that specific content creator. But it's okay to have your opinions, your thoughts, your feelings, your expressions, but it is not okay to terrorize, to literally say verbatim on your YouTube channel that your entire goal is to taint the jury. Your entire goal is to make sure these witnesses are so harassed that they retract. This woman is recounting a very traumatic, shocking event and death of her friend from over 3 years ago. People go in front of the grand jury. They go in front of law enforcement multiple times. They go in front of experts. They go in front of whatever prosecuting attorney or district attorney it may be and have meetings. There are multiple times where witnesses are asked to recount everything. And when you're in the middle of shock and you're trying to save somebody's life and it's early morning, dark, and it's in the middle of a snowstorm, people are going to get things wrong sometimes. But that's why that testimony is in a transcript. He's trying to make her look like she is saying something so completely different than what she said 3 years ago. Or trying to make it seem like she's omitting a truth. When I just don't buy it. If I was a juror myself, I would be sitting there saying, why is he going so hard at her? Why is he nitpicking so hard at her? And it's because she was there. She was there. She's a witness. She's very credible. She was friends with John O'Keefe. She was friends with Karen. She loved John, and she liked Karen for over 2 years and accepted her. And I think that's why. But it doesn't show or prove that she's a liar, that she's intentionally lying or trying to mislead a jury. It doesn't show me a conspiracy. It doesn't show me. And then he goes on today too to talk about Michael Proctor from the investigator. Yeah, that he was problematic. His behavior was suspicious, and they definitely had every right to investigate him and then fire him for his conduct and his behavior. But that's the thing. He was investigated and he was fired. But that was about his conduct and his behavior after Karen Read did what he did. They're still not proving enough conspiracy, reasonable doubt before the incident to show that they caused the incident and not Karen. So they can throw everything at the wall to see what sticks. A dog bite, that it was a different car that hit and ran, that it was a plow truck, that it was the people inside the house, that it was a police frame job conspiracy. Sure, it's easy to believe those things. But you know what comes to mind is it's easier to fool somebody than it is to convince a fooled person that they have been fooled. And as much as there's bad police officers, there are rogue bad police officers that can do things like frame somebody. Stephen Avery case, the Brandon Dassity, his nephew, that case. Yeah. There are bad police officers that have the means, the motive, and the opportunity, but that's not a conspiracy with other people. That's just one bad person doing a bad thing. You have to show that. You have to prove that in some kind of way that is not only possible, but that's plausible. You don't have to prove that they did it, but you just have to prove that it's possible and it's plausible as an explanation for how, why, when John O'Keefe passed away in the way that he did. And the fact is that it was Karen Read who had him in her car and took him to 34 Fairview. Then it was her car who left him there. It was at a stranger's house, no less. Because if that was my boyfriend or my husband and he went into somebody's house who we didn't know and he's checking to see if the party's still going on and we're still invited, and he didn't come out after 5 minutes, I would get out and I would go the 2 yards it takes to get to the door and be like, hey, did you forget about me? I've been sitting out in the car. I would not leave him there and then go back to his house. Weird. Really weird. And then find him exactly where she left him the next morning, where she was at a 0.7 and a 0.8 blood alcohol level almost 7 hours after. So just imagine 7 hours before what her intoxication limit was, because if she was over the limit 7 hours later, after 7 a.m., she clearly was intoxicated. And I'm going to stand by that. That's why she gave the hospital such issue with trying to take her urine or her blood, because she knew that. She knew that right away. And the reason why she knew that is because she knows what she did. She knows what happened. She knows she's trying to cover it up. But you can worm your way around everything but the truth. The truth is always going to stand there. It's always going to be there. It's going to be omnipresent. It's going to be forever. It's going to be verifiable. It's going to be what it is. And it wasn't a plow truck that had a broken taillight that was embedded in John O'Keefe's body, his clothing that he wore as he lay there dying. It wasn't another vehicle's taillight whose broken pieces were all over. It was Karen Read's Lexus SUV. It was her taillight. Hopefully the jury gets it right this time and justice is truly delivered by God, by the laws of man, for John O'Keefe, because he did not die at his own hands and he did not die a natural death. It was a homicide, clearly a homicide. And no matter what, it was a life that was cut tragically short, and his family deserves justice. He deserves justice. And some people might not believe that it's second degree, but yeah, him being a police officer changes everything. It's not just a pedestrian. It's not just a random private citizen. This person was a law enforcement officer. That does change the game. It's not just, oh, she was driving drunk, she should have to pay for that. She killed somebody while driving drunk. That's a crime. And not just anybody, a police officer. So Hopefully the jury gets it right and puts all the noise aside and really looks at just the facts and the evidence and not all the BS circus that they're trying to create to confuse you.